Six Flags St. Louis is a mid-sized Six Flags park located in Eureka, Missouri. Opened in 1971 as Six Flags Mid-America, this park is one of the few in the chain that was built originally as a Six Flags property and has always been under their ownership. This park currently has 9 operating roller coasters, along with a nice mix of flat rides, family attractions, and a small water park. In the early 90s, as a child, I visited this park on a family vacation. I still have vivid memories of that visit to this park, and especially my ride on River King Mine Ride. I'll also never forget the torrential rainstorm that started late in the day and left my entire family completely drenched. It's funny how sometimes the things that seem so terrible at the time end up being your fondest memories later in life. On a recent family vacation, we passed through St. Louis, and I knew I had to jump upon the opportunity to take my kids to this park. The kids are excited to have a fun day at a new park, and Jess and I are excited to earn some new credits. And I was particularly excited to have the opportunity to relive a childhood memory with my own family. We arrived at the park as soon as it opened. This was my first Six Flags park that I had visited since COVID turned the theme park world upside down, and I wasn't really sure what to expect on this visit. Entering the park, I was pleasantly surprised. There was an efficient temperature screening process, social distancing markers and hand sanitizer stations were everywhere, they are running open rows on trains, and there is good mask compliance. Six Flags seems to be on the ball when it comes to COVID preventative measures. Once we entered the park, the first impression I had is how nice the new entry plaza looks. I know that landscaping and decoration's not nearly as exciting as a brand new coaster, but improvements like this really make a big difference in the overall experience of visiting a park. The fountain in the center of the park still had a plaque dedicating Six Flags Mid-America, and I really appreciated the park remembering its history with little details like this. Because of COVID, the park was operating at a reduced capacity, and since it was a hot day, a good portion of the crowd was there for the water park. The result was station waits or less at essentially every ride in the park. The first ride of the day for us was Batman the Ride. I know these clone B&N inverts are everywhere, but they still provide a great ride. Smooth and forceful are the 2 words that come to mind. The only complaint I have with this ride is honestly the needlessly long queue. I think I got half my steps on my Fitbit in for that day, in that queue alone. After Batman, we subjected ourselves to Ninja. It's no secret that this coaster has an absolutely terrible reputation. So when Jess and I boarded it, we expected the worst. But honestly, it wasn't that bad. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't good either. But this ride certainly does not deserve the hate that it receives. After Ninja, Madeline, our oldest daughter, insisted it was time to ride some spinny rides, so we hit up a few of the park's flats. She particularly enjoyed Spinsanity and Skyscream. I don't understand how a kid who is afraid to ride most coasters will hop on rides like that without the least bit of hesitation. After Madeline tried her hardest to make Jess puke on spinny rides, we got back to the coasters. The next coaster we rode was the River King Mine Ride. I had great memories of riding this with my parents as a kid, so I was really happy when Madeline agreed to ride it with me. It's always hit or miss whether she'll ride new coasters, so I had real concerns about her choosing to take a pass on it. While not the most thrilling coaster in the world, it's a great family coaster and doesn't suffer from the unbearable roughness that most era mine trains inflict upon their riders. Madeline loved the ride and immediately got in line to ride it a second time with Jess. After the mine ride, we scored rides on Boomerang and Screaming Eagle. Boomerang is, well, a boomerang. Have I mentioned that I'm not a fan of these rides? That being said, I'm my own ashamed credit whore, so we took a lap on it knowing I'd end up with a headache. Screaming Eagle was a classic out and back Woody, and it was the final coaster designed by the legendary John C. Allen. Being a sucker for classic coasters, this is the ride that I personally was most looking forward to at this park. I'm pleased to report that Six Flags St. Louis has been a great custodian of Allen's legacy, and Screaming Eagle is running great. After our ride on Screaming Eagle, we headed into Bugs Bunny National Forest, the park's children's area. The kids area in this park was small and honestly kind of disappointing. There's a decent selection of kids' rides, but not all of them were staffed or running, and in fact there's a couple rides with one operator bouncing back and forth between rides. It may just be that our kids are spoiled having Kings Island's Planet Snoopy as their home park, but honestly, we were all kind of hoping for more out of this kids' area. That being said, the kids still had fun, and after we finished up in Bugs Bunny National Forest, we took a ride on the park's train and then moved on to finish up the coasters. The next coaster on the list was Pandemonium, the park's family spinning coaster. I was a little concerned that Madeline would chicken out of this one, but the exact opposite happened. Madeline loved this ride and immediately wanted to ride it again. 4 laps later, and she was still begging for more. These Gerstlauer spinners are great family rides, and I really wish more parks would add attractions like this to their lineups. I don't care that this ride is a clone, and that I've ridden several others just like it. Seeing my kids excited to marathon a coaster is awesome. To make things even better, this was Madeline's 30th credit, and she was excited to hit another milestone. After Pandemonium, we took laps on the Boss and American Thunder. Both of these Woodies gave good, if not somewhat forgettable rides. The Boss was not nearly as rough as some people make it out to be, although I certainly can understand why so many people want to see it receive the RMC treatment. American Thunder is a solid mid-tier GCI, and it's really impressive just how much it fits into a small footprint. The one little detail I really appreciated on American Thunder was the signs telling the history of roller coasters in the queue line. It was great to see classic coasters such as Leap the Dips and The Beast have their stories told in this park. I really wish that I'd thought to take pictures of these signs while I was there, but I guess that just gives me a reason to go back to this park. After American Thunder, we ran into our first 3 disappointments of the day. First, we took a spin on the antique cars, since these are always a favorite with our kids. In my entire life, I've never seen such a ridiculously short antique car ride. I swear, the queue line is longer in the path through these cars. To top it off, besides a decent look at American Thunder, there is essentially no scenery throughout the path. The next disappointment was that shortly after we got in line to ride Mr. Free's Reverse Blast, the ride went down and never reopened that day. I was bummed out to miss this credit, but I suppose that also gives me a reason to return. The final disappointment was that on our way out of the park, the kids, as is tradition, demanded ice cream. We went to the ice cream shop to discover that a single scoop of ice cream was $10. Now I know that nobody goes to a theme park looking for good prices for food, but my god, $10 for a single scoop of ice cream, that's excessive. We ended up telling the kids that we would just stop for ice cream on the way home, and left the park to get started on the 5-hour drive back to Cincinnati. We did not spend a ton of time at Six Flags St. Louis, but ice cream disappointment aside, it was one of my better Six Flags experiences. The park was relatively clean and there's practically no lines. We got to ride some pretty decent coasters as well. To make things even better, the staff was friendly and I was able to strike up a conversation with a few coaster enthusiasts while I was waiting for my kids to use the restroom. Speaking of restrooms, every one we used had ice-cold air conditioning in it. We visited the park on a hot day and the COVID masks made it even hotter. It seems trivial, but being able to cool off a little bit while you attend to nature was a very welcome surprise. This park has a deep lineup of coasters, but unfortunately, this lineup consists entirely of second-tier rides, without a single standout attraction. The coaster highlight of the day for me was Screamin' Eagle, but honestly, nothing else really stood out. Maybe I'd feel differently if I'd been able to ride Mr. Freeze, I don't know. Six Flags St. Louis has always felt like one of the most forgotten parks in the Six Flags chain, and I really hope that Six Flags leadership sends them a new standout coaster soon. An RMC Raptor or B&M Hyper would both be great fits for this park, and would fill in glaring gaps in their lineup. Overall, I'm glad we visited Six Flags St. Louis, and I hope to return again soon. Have you been to Six Flags St. Louis? If so, let me know what you think about it in the comments section, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, ride on, coaster fans.